take a person coming back that doesn't have an ID and loses his family and his kids. And you tell me that this shouldn't be fixed right away. I just don't think enough people care.
Hi there, I'm Tom Natchu. Welcome to another edition of Fraud Squad. Now, fraudsters have mastered technology and the internet to bilk victims out of billions of dollars every year. You see, they create these fake websites and emails in order to trick us out of our money. Now, you'd think you'd notice a bogus website, but as you're about to see, these criminals can be extremely resourceful and can dupe even the most careful internet user. But first, we're going to share with you a very disturbing identity theft story that targets military personnel while they're away on combat duty. To me, it's absolutely outrageous that these heartless scumbags can take advantage of our brave men and women in uniform and get away with it. But unfortunately, it happens all too often.
The first time I realized I was a victim of identity theft, I was shocked. My name is George Galvez. I was born in Chicago. I'm the oldest of four. I have three younger brothers. During high school, I became a father at a young age, at age 16, 17. So when I found out I was a father, I figured I'd try to do school while I had a kid. But I saw that was really hard, so I figured I'd try to join the Army, you know, better myself, better my life, provide a better life for my daughter as well.
George did everything right. He worked hard to improve his life and to build a future for his family.
The responsibility was hard, but I mean, you become adult when you become a father. My wife at the time, she helped me out a lot too as well, you know, taking care of my child. And especially through the deployments, which made it harder. I think we got really married at a young age. That's what kind of made things harder as well too. We're kind of new to the military and new to marriage. And especially since when I signed up, I wasn't stationed here. I was stationed in North Carolina, so we have no family, no friends, so we had to make new friends.
His problems began when he was deployed to a combat zone in Iraq.
My job in the military was, I was a 13 Fox, which is a forward observer. I controlled artillery, I controlled aviation, even naval gunfire at the time if we had it available. When we're out on patrols, there'll be times where terrorists would shoot at us.
He was unaware fraudsters were destroying his life while he survived the challenges of combat.
Up here, man.
You'd hear the rounds either whiz by or above your head. You don't know where it's coming from, so it's nerve-wracking.
9576.
I mean, I pretty much just prayed and hoped for the best. Might be that chance where you might not come back. When I finished my deployment, I came back with money saved up from Iraq. I figured I'd save that money to get married and buy a house. I went to a bank to get a loan, and I got denied. I figured I was young. I was 19 or 20 at the time. I didn't have no credit built up. They told me I'd owed $2,500 to a cell phone company that I never heard of. Some guy used my ID, purchased 4 or 5 phones. So he connected lines and he had plans and he didn't pay it. And throughout those years, it builds up interest. What he did was he used my ID, but he used somebody else's credit card or debit card. And for some reason, it affected me, although my credit card or bank card wasn't in that file at all.
Yeah, man, I got it.
Shad Mashad is a Vietnam veteran who understands how combat affects soldiers. He's passionate about helping soldiers to adjust when they finally return home to their families.
Just lately, we've noticed a high incident of identity theft calls. We get all types of calls here at the National Veterans Foundation, everything. But we noticed, all of us, that we were starting to get ID theft. And what we realized was this population is probably the most vulnerable of all the populations in America. Number one, because their Social Security number is on everything. Your number is your Social Security number. They don't give you a military number. It's your Social Security number. And as soon as you join the military, your Social Security number, you may not even known your Social Security number becomes your number. It's on everything. And whenever they leave anything, whether it's mail, paperwork, their gear, their number's there.
Unfortunately, George's story happens to scores of returning soldiers.
When I was in Vietnam, we had a military number on our IDs, not our Social Security number. That all changed after Vietnam. It just takes one person to lift that number, run it through however they do with their fraud software, and they own everything. It's that simple. It's that fast. That is the prime steal for anybody that wants to do fraud, is your Social Security number. They can run your accounts empty. They can run your all of your credit cards empty. You name it. If your Social Security's number is on it, they got it. These people are pros, and they have found the population, and it is sad, but it is true. And it finally, I went, oh my God, this is becoming an epidemic.
Are military personnel more likely to be victims of identity theft than the average citizen? True or false? The correct answer is true. Military personnel are deployed out of the country for long periods of time and have no idea that their name is being used in order to secure credit cards or make fraudulent purchases.
The first time I realized I was a victim of identity theft, I was shocked. Some guy used my ID, which purchased 4 or 5 phones.
Just lately, we've noticed a high incident of identity theft calls. These people are pros. This is becoming an epidemic.
I called my future wife. I asked her if she knew anything about it. She knew nothing about it. I didn't know anything about it either. So I figured I'd talk to my section sergeant, which I did. They told me to get all the paperwork for the collection agency, which I did, and to write a letter to all 3 bureaus and tell them my incident. So I did. I did the same thing. I did 3 packages for each credit bureau, and I was just waiting for them. So I had to pretty much settle with an apartment for me, my wife, and my child at the time. Once I filed the police report in North Carolina, the police station over there told me that I need to file the police report in California, since the incident happened in California. At the time, there was no way I could get to California since I was stationed in North Carolina. So I either had to ask for permission to take leave or just wait when we took leave as a unit. So when that time came, I couldn't because we went to our second deployment. Through that 15-month employment, it was stressful too to know that what if my wife needed to try to apply for something and she couldn't get approved for because of my background. I bought a used car before my deployment, which I had it for like say a year or 2. We were having issues with that car, so I figured I'd try to get a new car. We tried like in 5 dealerships in North Carolina, but we still couldn't get approved. So I went to this dealership where they offered me a car, and the guy said all we had to wait was, pretty much for a bank to approve you. He said they're gonna approve you, so I figured, I was good. After that, I left. And a week after, while I was in Iraq, my wife calls me and told me they took the car back because I didn't get approved.
Stop. I can't deal with this.
You can't deal with what? Tell me.
With everything. With the creditors calling, I can't get a loan. We can't even get a car.
But what do you want me to do? Like, I've been working on it.
They'd figured since, I had that in my record, I wouldn't be able to pay my payments. So I figured I'd talk to the collection agency, which I did. I called them. I spoke to one of the representatives. I told them my situation. I even sent them a packet. If you put two and two together, it would make no sense. So I told her what happened, and the lady, still told me, you know what, since it has your signature and it has your social, you still at least should pay. You have to. They try to break it down and make me pay half.
You at least have to pay half. We can drop it. What I can do for you today.
It's hard. It's hard.
Do something.
It's horrific.
You
You can
haven't been here to
imagine
help.
what they're dealing with just going on multiple tours, come back, and now you've got all these financial problems that somebody has put you into. It's a major
It
crime.
makes life harder. It definitely makes life harder for everything.
In the past decade, identity theft has clearly grown as a much more widespread problem all throughout the United States. The number of people impacted by identity theft has pretty steadily increased year over year to where the latest statistics show 10 million people were impacted last year.
The sickness of all this is the fact that 39 years ago, I, amongst 3.5 million other men over a 10-year period, fought in a war. And the readjustment problems were horrendous for us in many ways at that time. We come back to today, and you have these men and women serving multiple tours, going over, putting their lives in harm's way. To imagine that not only while I'm there, possibly losing the identification of sweet old me, 24-year-old young captain, coming back, and your life continues to hit walls because your ID has been stolen, and you have not only that, but you have war memories, and you have nothing but sad memories, and you become sad most of your life. I'm enraged at this whole story of this fraud. This is murder to these individuals. This is murdering who they are. If something's not done for George, it's going to be a bad situation. We're taking 5 years to resolve an identity theft on a combat vet, and his life has changed. And I can guarantee you,
When I finished my deployment, next thing you know, I'm pretty much getting a divorce. It affected my marriage, and say I couldn't provide my family with certain needs. It definitely, it escalates things. And if it's with all your other problems, it makes it even worse. You have another problem to add into, I guess. So it took some. It wasn't the whole thing of to end the marriage, but it definitely was a part of it.
take a person coming back that doesn't have an ID and loses his family and his kids. And you tell me that this shouldn't be fixed right away. I just don't think enough people care.
What is the cost of identity theft in North America? A, 40 to 50 million, B, 50 to 60 billion, or C, $100 billion? The correct answer is B, 50 to 60 billion. Last year, over 11 million people in North America became a victim of identity fraud at a total cost of $54 billion.
The internet age has now proliferated virtually every aspect of our lives. And if you're an active member of the online community, then this next story is one to which you'll want to pay special attention.
These days, we do conduct business on the internet, and there's ways to do it properly. There's ways to conduct yourself on the internet. When you walk through the dark streets of a big city at night and go down a dark alley, you know that you're doing something that's not all that smart. The internet has plenty of those dark alleys. There's a very dark side to the internet.
One of the things I often like to mention to people in terms of safety of using the internet is the safety related to the vulnerability of your identity. Too many times people will solicit your first name and last name and address and postal code, and you may think that it's for innocent purposes, but you should never give that information unless it's absolutely necessary, unless the reason is explained.
Occasionally people get emails which are called phishing emails, and if you receive any of these emails and they are asking you for login information, for your driver's license information, for your bank account information, these are the types of phishing emails that you really need to be aware of, and need to be aware of the fact that any reputable company is not going to ask you for this kind of personal information.
People need to understand that if they get an email like that, that they just can't rely upon it, and they need to validate it by calling their bank and asking the right questions. You know, are you soliciting information from me? You know, have you sent me this email message? And of course, the bank's response is going to be no.
PayPal and other reputable companies will never be sending you emails asking you for passport numbers, bank account numbers, driver's license numbers, or any kind of personal information like that. So if you ever do receive an email that is asking you for personal information like that, you can assume that it is a phishing email and you should delete it immediately and not ever respond to it.
Do I delete emails without opening them? Absolutely I do. And I advise people to do that. If you don't know who sent you that email, delete it. The way we conduct ourselves on the internet is directly related to how effective we use the internet. It is a tool, and it's for us to use. We don't want to be a victim.
It's important for people to validate the information that they're receiving, and it's critically important that, to the extent possible, that people educate themselves about how the internet is being used by people who seek to exploit it, but also to understand how those legitimate e-commerce companies are using it so that they can understand the difference between what is valid and what is not valid.
When doing business over the internet, it's important to employ due diligence. Most often, fraudsters don't even reside in the same country as their victims. That makes it especially difficult to recoup money after it's been sent, so be leery of anyone that requests your credit card information or recommends that you use a money transfer service when purchasing goods over the internet.
Western Union is in over 200 countries and territories around the world. We have a very strong brand. We're a fast, reliable, and safe way to remit money to family and friends. It shouldn't be used for purchasing products over the internet and sending it to people that you don't know. That's not what our service was built for. Once you send money to someone through a money transfer service company, the person's name that you sent it to picks it up, and that money is gone. The only way for the sender now to get it back is to try and get it from the receiver, and in many cases that is almost impossible.
It's very time-consuming and difficult for law enforcement people to follow these circumstances. It's not as easy as the visible evidence of someone driving a stolen car down the street, where you've got, physical capability to collect evidence and those type of things.
Are you kidding me? I need my package. This is insane.
Proposed
I have been
seller
waiting
or
and
vendor
waiting and waiting.
refuses to tell you who they really are.
No, I
or
don't
where
want to
they
talk to
really
anyone
live,
else.
or if they're telling you that they're from out of country but the money has to be sent to some other location. Any of these issues should be red flags.
And as with any form of fraud, the best way to defend yourself is through education and a healthy sense of skepticism. Always protect your personal and financial information.
What is the common name for an email fraud used by criminals to collect personal information from victims? A. Spamming. B. Phishing. C. Spoofing. D. Reeling. The correct answer is B. Phishing. An email is sent to a user falsely claiming to be a legitimate company in an attempt to scam the user into surrendering private information.
There's great things that you can do with the web by accessing information that never previously existed before. It's just that you need to be a little bit more diligent and circumspect.
Consumers need to remember, the internet is a safe place. A lot of valuable information is available on the internet. Anything you want to find out, you can find on the internet, but you need to be skeptical.
It's important for people to respect what the internet offers us. It's important for people to validate the information that they're receiving, and it's critically important that, to the extent possible, that people educate themselves.
Don't give up information on your personal matters, passwords to financial institutions that you use. Be skeptical, think before you click.
Once again, we're here with Craig Hannaford, fraud prevention expert. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? I mean, the internet can be used for all sorts of wonderful things that you and I both use it for, but the bad guys can also use it to get us.
Well, you're right. Anytime there's a new technology, fraudsters figure out ways to defraud us and to use that technology against us. But I don't want people to get totally scared and turned off about using the internet, because it is a great tool. You just have to take a few common sense steps.
If the bad guys get your money, chances are you've done something a little silly, like send money to somebody you don't know.
Yeah, and that's rule number one over the internet. Never send money to people you don't know or trust. That's where most people get burned. And if you are going to send money, try and do it over an internet payment service like PayPal, because they usually have some sort of built-in insurance that if you get ripped off, you have some recourse to get your money back.
And the trick is that when you enter into one of these agreements, read all of the fine print.
When you purchase items over the internet, use a payment service or some other secure payment system. Make sure you know who you're dealing with. Check out an online company with the BBB or your state consumer agency before you buy. Be careful about giving out personal information or payment information to unknown companies or individuals over the internet. Remember, a great-looking website can be a great tool for fraudsters to trick you out of your money. Fraudsters are able to collect a lot of personal information about you from social networking sites. Be careful what you post online.
Now, we want to hear from you, so Fraud Squad takes it to the streets to hear some of your stories.
If you know someone who had identity theft years ago, it was like 15 years ago, and she used to live in New York City, and then she moved and she found out that someone actually was impersonating her for 3 years. So she had to go to court and try to prove that all the accounts opened weren't hers. She just had to contact a lawyer and then try to prove who she was, that she wasn't still in New York City. She had moved since then, so then she had to show her paperwork showing that she wasn't still a resident there. How they discovered it was when they started charging things and not paying for them.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Fraud Squad. Remember, we're all fighting fraud together.